What is up, guys? It's me, the ALE Prince, and I am actually going to do something different. Now, you're probably reading the title. It probably says a look back at every single Hell in a Cell match. And yeah, I'm going to go through every single Hell in a Cell match in chronological order, but I'm not going to rank them. I'm going to simply go through them, talk about the matches, and just tell you whether or not they were a good idea or what have you. But here's how I see it. Um, so let's go back to the very first one. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. Bad Blood in Your House singles match to determine the number one contender for the WWF Championship at Survivor Series. And this is the first time we ever had the Hell in a Cell stipulation. It was a really cool idea. And naturally, you'd say to yourself, yeah, The Undertaker's going over. But that's not the case. And this was the one that gave us the debut of Kane, one epic debut, one of the greatest debuts ever. Kane tombstoning the Undertaker. Shawn Michaels sneaks in the victory, and it was a great match to just establish who the Undertaker is, who Shawn Michaels is, and who Kane is. Also, how the Hell in a Cell works and how it could come by as time goes on. So I thought this one was phenomenal. One of my favorite matches of all time. So great job. This is a great first match in the stipulation. And the right guy went over. So there's that. Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Mankind and Kane on a episode of Raw, June 15, 1998. I have heard about this match. I've never seen it. And it honestly sounds kind of like just a thrown together match. I mean, the match is 10 minutes. But I think deep down, they were still trying to figure out what kind of stipulation you want a Hell in a Cell to be. And it actually has four of the greatest names in the Attitude Era. So I can't really blame it. They were trying something, but overall, I didn't think it was all that good. That's just my personal take. I mean, I haven't seen it, but I know for a fact it was pretty lame, I'm guessing. But the one that's not lame and very iconic is Undertaker and Mankind from King of the Ring, 1998. This is a phenomenal match, one of the most iconic matches of all time. This one, if you weren't a fan of Mick Foley, you definitely would be a fan of him here. But one of my favorite things about this match is like the story going into it, because the original idea was to, because they wanted Mick Foley to fall off the cell, um, and go through the cage and do all of that crazy stuff. But the plan was to do the same thing as Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker did, where they started in the bottom of the ring and then worked their way up. I think that would have been a terrible idea, because I think Undertaker and Mick Foley have great chemistry, but it wouldn't have worked. And I'm glad that Mankind realized it, because like no one wants a competitive match and then work your way up, especially when it's Undertaker and Mankind. Like the sizes of these two are completely different. So Mick Foley was smart enough to say, no, let's start at the top and then work our way down the bottom, do something different, a little bit of a twist. And this shit was iconic. It's almost even like a no contest kind of match. Like that is how iconic it is. But thankfully, they were smart enough to go the route that they did, and it was just a really brilliant match. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was a great way to establish who both of these characters are. Mankind versus Kane from Raw, August 1998. It ended in a no contest. I believe Stone Cold interfered in this match, or somebody interfered, but having a man, like people complain about Seth Rollins and The Fiend ending in no contest, like this one was just as bad, probably. And I remember watching clips of it, and I was just like, yeah, this didn't work out. And it was really just dull. Five, Undertaker versus Big Bossman from WrestleMania 15, the first ever Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania ever. But this was such a big fat disappointment. Like it should have been Undertaker and Kane inside Hell in a Cell. That would have been way more like eyes glued to the set. Big Boss Man, I always saw him as a jobber. I never like people try to make him a superstar in the WWF and WCW. They like the Big Boss Man. I don't really necessarily was a big fan of his, and there's no disrespect to the man. Rest in peace. But yeah, he was never really a really credible opponent. Like some people were just meant to be jobbers, or those people that help put the mid carders or the main eventers over. And yeah, just Big Boss Man, no. And it ended very disturbingly with Big Boss Man hanging off the cell. That was very disturbing. Like even to this day, like I hate that we live in a PC culture that um doesn't that always just takes everything that they might find sensitive to them and take it away. I hate that people do that. But in this scenario, I understand why they would do it. So, but yeah, um, and I remember even in 1999, people were like, "Yeah, like this shouldn't have happened. This is not only was it a terrible match, but that moment was just like, really fucks with your head." But yeah, and hell, after a while, they weren't gonna do Hell in a Cell matches because the next one it was Triple H and Cactus Jack. This is the first time without like any demonic characters. Like this is just two brawlers, Triple H and Cactus Jack, and this is a very underrated Hell in a Cell match. Not necessarily. I mean, people when they say greatest Hell in a Cell matches of all time, this is in the top 10 to a lot of people. But when you think about it, no one really ever goes to this match. And granted, the month prior, they had an amazing street fight, Triple H and Cactus Jack, but the Hell in a Cell match was just as great, maybe even better, just because of the story told, and they brought in Hell in a Cell. Like, if this was the main event to WrestleMania 2000, oh god, this would have been one of the greatest matches of all time. It didn't have to, but in No Way Out, it was a great match. It was a fantastic match. The only thing that I had a problem with, and you guys all agree with this, is that if Cactus Jack lost, he would have retired, and he just comes back like 2 weeks later. So it kind of took out of it, and that's probably why a lot of people don't count it as one of the greatest matches of all time, but it really is. I guarantee you. 6-man Hell in a Cell match at Armageddon 2000. People call it the Armageddon Hell in a Cell all the time, but it's Kurt Angle defending his belt against Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, and Rikishi. This match is famous for The Rock's promo going through everybody in the roster, like talking about Kurt Angle. I'm gonna drink a glass of milk. I did it for The Rock, and facing the game. And have the Undertaker rest in peace and talk about Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like that epic promo of The Rock is probably the most memorable build I had. But I remember this was like Undertaker got screwed over by Kurt Angle at Survivor Series. Stone Cold Steve Austin wanted revenge from Triple H and Rikishi. The Rock was facing Rikishi because he did it for The Rock, and it was just kind of a big clusterfuck. And it's all fault to the writers. Why did they make Rikishi be the guy to run over Stone Cold Steve Austin? It should have been Kurt Angle. That would have been made way more sense. Like the same year that he debuted. Uh, like that would have been way more iconic. So naturally, the match that I would have gone with would be Triple H, Stone Cold, and Kurt Angle in a triple threat Hell in a Cell match. That's the match that I would have gone with, and then have The Rock and The Undertaker do their own promo, and Rikishi could go in the mid card division. He didn't need to be the one to run over The Rock. It made no fucking sense in the long run. With that said, this match is pretty cool. It's just kind of hard to get through because there's just so much going on, and even there's a part where like Vince thought this match was too insane, so they cut the cell. They're trying to break the cell, but it led to nothing. Just an excuse to have Undertaker throw Rikishi down. So that's really what it was mainly known for. But yeah, it just felt like a big cluster mess. It is a fantastic match. Like you could actually watch it and have fun with it. But if you just like balls to the walls nonsense wrestling, then this is it. But yeah, it just didn't do it for me. 2002 Judgment Day. We haven't seen a Hell in a Cell match in over a year, but it's Triple H and Chris Jericho just finishing off their feud. And this is the first match that ended not in the ring, but like at the top of the cell. I remember this. Triple H hitting the pedigree on Chris Jericho on top of the cell and then pinning him 1, 2, 3. And this is probably a very underrated Hell in a Cell match. Yeah, not a lot of people go to this one. People know it for the referee bump. And then I forgot the name of the referee, but he kind of goes crazy. But everybody knows that story. But um, yeah, I thought this was a good match. I felt like it was missing a little something. I don't know why, but uh, yeah, I thought it was a good match. And yeah, I really can't complain about it. Maybe the story itself didn't really need the sub, but it was still a good sell. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. This is one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches, if not my favorite. This next one I'm about to say, Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker from No Mercy 2002. One of my favorite matches of all time. Holy shit! The story, the drama was there. Undertaker grabbing Paul Heyman by the tie and then just pulling him to the cell. Brock Lesnar looking dominant. This was a perfect way of The Undertaker putting over someone. Undertaker is a master at putting over somebody and still looking strong. And this was no different. I wasn't high on the American Badass and evil biker taker, but if they were gonna do something, they did it correctly here. Oops. So yeah, Lesnar and Taker from No Mercy 2002, phenomenal match. One of the greatest Hell in a Cell matches of all time, in my opinion. So good job on that one. Triple H versus Kevin Nash for the World Heavyweight Championship with special guest referee Mick Foley, Bad Blood 2003. I did not like this match. The only reason why Mick Foley was the referee is because no one gave a shit, so they needed something to get in it. So they put Mick Foley as the referee. I've suggested that they should have done a trilogy and do the classic 50-50 booking that Triple H loves. But I would have had Triple H win at WrestleMania. Uh, Booker T is upset. He puts his career on the line at Backlash. So it's Triple H versus Booker T, title versus career at Backlash. Booker T wins. And then we do Triple H and Booker T. Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood 2003. That's how I would have done it. But Kevin Nash was just like, it felt so corporate. That's the thing. Around this time, the clique was well known. It was well established by everybody. And Kevin Nash was just the old, shattered version of himself that, yeah, it just felt like they were only giving us this match just so Triple H can go over and still look strong. But at this point, Triple H was already strong. Like, there was no reason like this. With this wrote corporate all over the place. This looks so corporate. It even sounds corporate. Triple H and Kevin Nash, two people nobody like at the time. Mick Foley, the referee, just so you get a cheer or anything. A Hell in a Cell stipulation, so you could tell that whoever wins looks dominant, even though neither one of them needed to look dominant. I've suggested like if Booker T was in this match, or yeah, if it was Booker and Triple H in this match, now it's like holy shit, can Booker T defend the belt inside Hell in a Cell? He's never been in the cell, so can he overcome the odds? And we'll see. Now that would have been a big money match, and you wouldn't have needed Mick Foley in this match just to get a pop. So yeah, bad job. Triple H and Shawn Michaels, Bad Blood 2004. This one's famous for being the longest Hell in a Cell match. Around this time, I think Triple H and Shawn Michaels overstated their welcome with their matches. They had way too many matches up to this point. And with that said, though, I will agree on this. Um, this was the correct way to finish off their feud once and for good. The only problem is that after this, they had like 5 more matches. So if this was truly the last ever Triple H and Shawn Michaels match, I would have been all over this. However, because prior to this, we do have more matches with these two featured, it really ruined it. So yeah, that's the only problem I have with it. But other than that, this is a great match. Clearly, both men know how to work this style and work inside the Hell in a Cell structure. So I can't really complain on that note. 2005, Batista versus Triple H, Vengeance 2005 for the World Heavyweight Championship. One of my favorite matches ever. This one was the one that told you, yes, Batista's the man, and he's going to be the face of this of SmackDown. Not the WWE that ended up going to John Cena, but this told you, yeah, Batista's gonna be a megastar because he beat Triple H twice. Now, can he beat him inside Triple H's structure? Because up to this point, Triple H has been in like at least 5 of these, as I just mentioned. So now that Batista beat Triple H inside the cell, it was like, holy shit, Batista is the man. So I cannot wait to see what happens with him. So this one I really enjoyed. I thought it was a fantastic match, really great match. So good job on this one. Randy Orton versus The Undertaker from Armageddon 2005. Honestly, I think a lot of people don't remember this match that well because people say that this is another one of the greats. I personally think it's a little overrated. I don't think it's bad, but yeah, up to this point, I feel like, yeah, The Undertaker is gonna go over, no doubt about it. Personally, I feel like this match would have been more impactful if it took place at WrestleMania. How would we have gotten there? Here's how. Uh, the Batista vacates the belt. Randy Orton wins the Battle Royal, not Kurt Angle. He stays on Raw. Kurt Angle wins the Royal Rumble. He challenges John Cena uh, at WrestleMania. And then Randy Orton is the world champion, a dominant world champion. Undertaker comes back. It's Orton versus Taker for the world title at WrestleMania inside Hell in a Cell. That would have been more impactful at Armageddon. It was just kind of like, eh. And think about it. Undertaker beats Undertaker beats Randy Orton, and then he goes on to face Mark Henry in a casket match, while Randy Orton, who lost this match, goes on to face Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio for the world title. That's kind of like a shitty payoff, to say the least. So the match itself is good, not great. And I think the payoffs to this kind of led to nothing. And that's what's important sometimes, the payoff to where everything leads to. So I don't want to be a hater. This is a good match, but not a great match, if that makes sense. Um yeah, really it should have been Kurt Angle and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 22 and then Randy Orton and maybe in Money in a Bank. That would have been more impactful. Um but yeah, they just really shot themselves in the foot on this one a little bit. That's my personal take. But yep, let's just move on. 2006 September. It was DX versus the McMahons and the Big Show at Unforgiven. At the time, Big Show was the WWE ECW champion, and DX. It made no sense. A lot of people hate this match. I think it's a fine match. It's not a terrible match, but it's not a good match. Like it's in the middle for me. It's kind of stupid because DX already beat the McMahon, so it was like no point of continuing. And then they brought in Big Show just to get ECW some attention, which I mean, Big Show shouldn't have ever been the ECW champion to begin with. So this was just sloppily done, and yeah, a lot of people over time tend to hate this match. I don't think it's a bad match. It was just a terribly booked match, I would say. And then just a way to embarrass Vince, like putting uh Big Show's ass on Vince's face. It was just so stupid. And it's like at this point the whole Shawn Michaels Vince storyline overstated its welcome. It was just really dumb. I didn't like it. That's my personal take. 15 Batista versus The Undertaker Survivor Series 2007. Yeah, this is the 15th Hell in a Cell. By the way, I'm looking through these through Wikipedia, but Batista and The Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship. This was a good match. This was honestly the perfect way to cap off this feud. And then it led to Edge coming out and attacking both. And I really enjoyed this one. This was a really good one. And it put Batista over yet again. Perfect. Oh, it's always great to put over somebody. Undertaker, as much as we give him credit for being in almost a lot of these matches, maybe even more than anyone. Yeah, I believe he's been in more Hell in a Cell matches than everybody. I personally think that when he puts over somebody, they actually come off to be better. Uh, just depending on how. And he put Batista over, so I can't really complain about this match. And Batista is one of my favorites, believe it or not. Very underrated wrestler. Oh, this is one of my favorites of all time too. Edge versus The Undertaker. Now, I already just said that Undertaker wrestles better when he puts over somebody, but this one I feel like The Undertaker needed the victory because he just came back. And he faces Edge, and Edge is scared out of his mind, but he learns that this is one of those times where Edge had to carry the storyline and wait for the Undertaker to come out, and I thought this was brilliantly done. Good work on Edge's part, and this is like you don't have to look like you don't have to win all the damn time. Like if Edge won this match, I would have been furious. I was like, yeah, this was stupid. But Undertaker winning and the fact that Edge went the distance, like this match is 25 minutes long, so this one was really fantastic, and it was the main event, and it didn't need to be a world title in it. All it needed to do is tell the story of can Edge overcome the Cell, and obviously he wasn't, and the Undertaker went over, and this was a fantastic, well put story match. So kudos for this one. This was another one of my favorites. I like this one way more than the Randy Orton one. That's just my personal take. So Undertaker and Edge at SummerSlam, fantastic. And it's upsetting because after this, it's all from this is like one of the last times we ever got uh an unpredictable Hell in a Cell. That's what I miss about Hell in a Cell. When it was unpredictable, you didn't know when it was gonna happen. Now you have a separate pay-per-view to give us Hell in a Cell, because after this we have the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and starting in 2009 with 3 Hell in a Cell matches. Yeah, that's right. And there should never be more than one Hell in a Cell match on the show. If I had it my way, I would have just done one. If you even want to do a Hell in a Cell pay per view, you do one. But it just really sucks that after this, Hell in a Cell just becomes like, oh, it's that time of the year, Hell in a Cell time. So, but yeah, 2009, we start off with The Undertaker and CM Punk, World Heavyweight Championship. This is upsetting because this actually sounds fantastic on paper, but the match was 10 minutes long and Undertaker wins. I'm glad that The Undertaker won. It actually made sense storyline purposes, but you could tell that CM Punk didn't want to go put over The Undertaker because The Undertaker was already well established. And part of the reason why CM Punk lost is because these two had a disagreement backstage. So it was really bad. And you could tell that around this time, CM Punk was really misbehaved. So he didn't really want to do the job. So it was just a very big mess. Randy Orton defeated John Cena at this pay per view as well for the WWE Championship. Around this time, they did that whole back and forth with the WWE Championship. Both of these guys, it worked and it didn't work. If it made sense, like he won at SummerSlam. Orton won at SummerSlam. Cena won at Breaking Point. Um, then Orton won here, and then the Iron Man match was the cap off where Cena won, and then they end up having like 1,500 more matches after this. But it made sense that Randy Orton won because John Cena's never been inside the Hell in a Cell structure. Randy Orton has against The Undertaker, so naturally, Randy Orton should go over. But this was all right. It wasn't terrible like everybody says it to be. It's not that bad. These guys don't have bad chemistry. It's just that they do this match way too many goddamn times. Hell, we have another Hell in a Cell with these two later, but we'll get to that when we get to that. And yeah, this one was all right. Um, and yeah, Orton winning. It made sense story purposes. Um, but it was just okay. And then a lot of people really like this one. I think it was all right as well. DX versus Legacy, Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase. Yeah, remember that when Cody Rhodes main evented a pay per view against Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Yeah. So the match was very interesting. So it starts with Legacy attacking DX from behind, and I know they did this simply because DX couldn't do the pyro, doing this, and then the X because they would have burned the cell. So I get why they did it, and then it led to Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase in a 2-on-1 handicap against Shawn Michaels because Triple H is locked out. And basically, they just kick his ass for like 20 minutes, or no, like for like 10 minutes. And then Triple H comes at the end, unscrews the cell. They lock Ted DiBiase out, and then it's Cody Rhodes versus DX. They have some fun with him, and then they beat him. So it made sense storyline purposes, but this match did not need to go that long if they were gonna do that. And like I said, people loved the Hell in a Cell structure when it was just one match, a pay-per-view. So this one really let me down. I really deep down I wish that the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view never existed and they simply gave you the Hell in a Cell match if needed, or if it would have been something like, holy shit, like, yeah, like now that we have a pay-per-view, it just really hurts it, and now we're getting another one, so can't kudos for that, I guess. But yeah, this one was all right. um Randy Orton versus Sheamus for the WWE Championship inside Hell in a Cell. I thought this match was okay. It was not bad, but it wasn't good either. This one is this one didn't really need the Hell in a Cell structure. Matter of fact, around this time, the Hell in a Cell was barely like used. I remembered they used to like barely use the cell. All it did is block your vision, like it just blocks like what you're watching. Um, so yeah, it was just so we could say we had a Raw cell and a SmackDown cell. And I don't know. I feel like Cena and Wade Barrett would have made more sense, but then they realized that Wade Barrett's not that big of a star to be inside the Hell in a Cell. So at the same time, it's like, then why'd you make the Nexus? So it was really stupid of them. Like, I thought Randy Orton and Sheamus, if it was Randy Orton and Wade Barrett for the WWE Championship, it would have made more sense. But they did Randy Orton and Sheamus, and hell, Randy Orton would have won clean, and then it would have shown that Wade Barrett maybe wasn't the star that it is. So, yeah, I don't think the match was bad, but it didn't need the stipulation. Kane and the Undertaker for the World Heavyweight Championship at the same night, 2010. Um, this was like five, like 15, maybe 10 years too late. Around this time, Undertaker was older, Kane was much older, and this was just a way to get Kane to put up. I remember Kane beat the Undertaker like 3 times in a row, and this was just a way to get Kane over, which led to nothing, unfortunately. Sorry, Kane, but I understand that the Undertaker wanted to do this, so I can't blame him for that. With that said, this match is god awful. Uh, yeah, and it ended so stupidly, like with Undertaker getting all his powers just so corny. All the lights go out, then Paul Bearer, I should say, sorry, blinds the Undertaker. Kane gets the upper hand and then beats him. Then Paul Bearer joins Kane. It was so stupid. Um, so yeah, just corny goofballishness. Like, I love the Undertaker, one of my favorites of all time, but when they do shit like this, it's really fucking stupid. And yeah, I thought this match was bad. No questions about it. Now, a lot of people talk about this match. I've never seen it, but I heard it was terrible. I mean, the match is 5 minutes long. It's John Cena, CM Punk, Alberto Del Rio, Dolph Ziggler, and Jack Swagger in a fatal five-way for the WWE Championship, September 26, 2011, in a dark match. And like, I remember, like, I saw videos like ranking every Hell in a Cell match, and then people go to this one. I was like, what the hell is this? And sure enough, it was a house show match. Like, I don't know why this one's on canon. It's so stupid. Why do they count it? Like, it shouldn't even happen. Like, why did they need to do this match? It made no sense whatsoever. Like, they just wanted a match just to say they did. Like if you want to send the fans home happy, they should have just done a Punk and Cena versus Dolph Ziggler and Jack Swagger in a regular tag match, and then Cena and Punk win or something like that. But this was just, it sounds stupid. Like, Jack Swagger inside Hell in a Cell. Come on, what are you doing, people? Uh, Hell in a Cell 2011. Mark Henry versus Randy Orton. Uh, I get that they were trying to build up Mark Henry, and Randy Orton was putting over Mark Henry. I thought this was good for that, but Mark Henry, let's be honest, Mark Henry is not the best worker. He is good for what he does, and that is breaking bones. And to go 15 minutes, it was unnecessary. I honestly wouldn't have minded if they did the Hell in a Cell. Mark Henry just breaks the cell, beats Randy Orton with it, maybe throw him a couple of times, and then pins him 1, 2, 3. Like, some Hell in a Cell matches do not need to go uh 15, 20 minutes. Some could just go like a few minutes and then go like, oh shit. So, and also like I said, the Hell in a Cell pay per view really messed things up for everybody. So um, I just didn't like it. Um, so yeah, I would have gone with I could have gone without this one. This one was unnecessary. Triple threat for the WWE Championship at the same pay per view: Cena, Punk, Del Rio. It made sense because Cena won the belt, Del Rio wanted the belt back, and then CM Punk was never got his shot, so it made sense in the long run to do this match, and it wasn't that bad of a match. It ended stupidly with like Ricardo Rodriguez hitting the ref, opening the cell, locking Cena out, Del Rio beating Punk, and like yeah, Del Rio had to pin CM Punk because yeah, that's what we all wanted to see, and it's not even famous for the match itself. It's famous for Truth and Miz coming afterwards and beating the crap out of everybody. And it was so stupid because the cell goes up, Cena rushes in, beats the crap out of him. Miz and Truth go back out, beat the crap out of everybody in the ring. And for some reason, no one bothers to pull the cell up. Instead, it was like we gotta open it. It was so stupid. I remember this storyline was so stupid. The no confidence for Triple H. It was just ridiculous. Like yeah, Hell in a Cell in 2011 was a bad pay per view, and this was an example of it just because of the silly booking. Yeah, I just didn't like it. I thought it was really pathetic. Um, yeah, so sometimes great wrestling doesn't equal great booking. That's just take notes, AEW. Great wrestling doesn't equal great booking. Sometimes people focus more on the storyline and what you can go with it, and then that will lead to classic matches. You really think the Undertaker and Stone Cold Steve Austin would have that great SummerSlam match if it didn't have a good story? No, I don't think so. Or Bret Hart and the Undertaker is another great example. Um, then we had Undertaker and Triple H with special guest referee Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 28. This was fantastic. And a lot of people say, "Oh, this is overrated. They didn't use to sell." This is one of the few times I'll accept it because they needed the match to sell. They needed the match to be as big as possible. And you have Triple H and Undertaker, the two men who have defined Hell in a Cell, with Shawn Michaels as the referee. It's like, holy shit, will Shawn Michaels break the streak? Like, what is going to happen here? So this was a brilliant, well done match. And what was more focused is like the Hell in a Cell was an afterthought, but it did have purpose in it sometimes. So I couldn't really get mad at this, but this was a really well thought out match. Another way to tell a great story. So this one's another fantastic one. Triple H going 20-0, and this was truly the match that should have retired the Undertaker, not him losing the streak, having that boneyard match, doing all these nonsensical Saudi Arabia shows. So yeah, it just really hurt the Undertaker after this. This is the last good Undertaker moment, the last truly great Undertaker moment. Oh, we got to talk about this one. CM Punk and Ryback from 2012's Hell in a Cell. Now, I remember at the time I was actually kind of excited for this because it wasn't John Cena. It's like, oh shit, they're going to push a new guy. But up to this point, and this is my problem with WWE now, that instead of having a wrestler win the IC belt, the US belt, the tag belts, whatever, you push him immediately to the main event status, and it makes the other belts less credible because now people are thinking Ryback's going to be the next Brock Lesnar or the next Goldberg, and he wasn't. He never would have been. Uh, and yeah, this was just terrible. It was just Ryback beating the crap out of CM Punk, and then Brad Maddox low blowing him, and CM Punk sneaking up the victory. This was terrible. I did not like it, and it wasn't great when they had a rematch at the next year's Hell in a Cell, which was CM Punk versus Ryback and Paul Heyman. But Paul Heyman was up the cell, and all this match was CM Punk beating Ryback, and it was more of a credible match. It was a little bit better just because CM Punk was putting in the work this time. And I get the story that after the match, CM Punk wanted to climb the cell and beat up Paul Heyman, but all it was is a couple of candlesticks and a GTS. Like, no, Punk should have thrown Paul Heyman down the fucking cell, but obviously they weren't gonna do that because Paul Heyman is older now. He couldn't have done that. Like, if this was Vince in Punk, that would have happened for sure. No matter how old Vince is, that would have happened. But yeah, Ryback is not meant for Hell in a Cell. Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan for the vacant WWE Championship with special guest referee Shawn Michaels inside the cell. This was a disappointment because I understand that Daniel Bryan didn't have to win this match. All this match needed to do is help Randy Orton get the upper hand, and then Daniel Bryan eventually overcoming the odds later at WrestleMania, which almost didn't happen if CM Punk didn't walk away. But there was just so much into this match that let less focus on the cell and everything because Shawn Michaels was the ref. Triple H wanted to interfere. There was just so much that like the match focused on everything except Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton, which was the dumbest thing they could have done. It should have just been Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. That should have been it. And then Randy Orton winning clean, showing us that Randy Orton is, in fact, a credible heel champion like he was in 2007 and 8 and those years. Instead, they just made Randy Orton look like a bitch. And that is not acceptable for a heel world champion. Like, this is around the time where the heels were fucking pussies. And I'm just calling it like it is. They were just coward. John Cena and Randy Orton from 2014 Hell in a Cell. This one, this one was simply just so they could have a double main event because they had no trust on Seth and Dean to be a good Hell in a Cell match, and I'll get to that when I get to that. But and then they try to do the whole whoever wins faces Brock at the Royal Rumble. Yeah, this didn't work out. I heard the rumored match was supposed to be Brock and Cena inside Hell in a Cell. That would have been way more awesome. But it's what you can do. But and John Cena wins. This is a way more better match than the one in 2009, just because this was showing Randy Orton more as like he was trying. And Bruce, I mean, Randy Orton is basically the Bruce Willis of professional wrestling. People like him, people support him, but he just focuses too much on uh just half-assing it sometimes. Like, and that's the same with Bruce Willis. He was awesome in Die Hard and The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, but then he just half-assed it in all of the rest of his movies when he didn't give a shit. He's just there for a paycheck. So Randy Orton is officially the Bruce Willis of professional wrestling. Anyways, fine match. I thought it was great. Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. This is honestly a big disappointment because people were really excited for it. And remember how I said that Undertaker and Foley, it's great that they started from the top and then worked their way down the bottom. This is the kind of match that could have worked from the bottom and then worked its way up and then both men going down the cell. That one would have worked better like that because it would have been the first time that that would ever happen in a while. The first time that ever happened was Taker and Michaels. And then even the bump that they took was lame because it was like halfway through the rope. They didn't go from the very top of the cell. Like, and I mean, I get it. People would want to get injured, but at the same time, then why have the stipulation? Like, I would have just canned it if they were going to do that. And then it ended with Bray Wyatt, for no reason, attacking Dean Ambrose just because they needed something for Bray Wyatt to do, and then Seth Rollins getting the upper hand. And I would have just had Seth Rollins win cleanly, or not cleanly, but with the help of J&J. Like, he finds a way to get out of the cell and then get J&J for help, and then eventually getting the upper hand. But yeah, this is another one where the two competitors in this match were the afterthought, and yeah, this one was very disappointing. It wasn't a terrible match, but it wasn't the greatest either. That's just my personal take. I know a lot of people are gonna hate me for that because this was a very popular Hell in a Cell match. But yeah, that's my personal take on it. So the problem wasn't the wrestling, the booking was. Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt inside Hell in a Cell. Like, around this time, Roman Reigns was being pushed to the moon, and we all knew that Roman Reigns was going to win. But at least this showed us that Roman Reigns is, in fact, a credible uh, wrestler. It took a while, but they got a good match out of him and shows that he can go with the top players. And if it sucked for Bray Wyatt, but this was a really good match. Bray and Roman, who are new to the cell. This is the first time both of these men ever entered the cell, and they worked. They got creative. They took it out of the park. They said, "No, let's do it our way." Like, I'm pretty sure we could talk to Vince, and we're going to be the top players. We're going to have to talk to Vince and say, "Look, this is our idea. Give us your thoughts." And then Vince like, "All right, you're going to be the face of the WWE. I trust you. Let's see what you got." And they did a great match, so I can't really complain about that. Brock Lesnar beating The Undertaker inside Hell in a Cell in 2015. This is just because they didn't want. Now, I get that they didn't want the last time we see Taker and Brock to be that horrible ending with Brock making The Undertaker tap out, and then just so they could half-ass it and just say nope. Brock Lesnar restart the match and then The Undertaker wins. That was stupid. This is just sorry for doing that. So we have this match now, and it was a great match. I thought it was a great match and a great way to cap off this feud. It kind of sucked because this was the main event, and this is with two people who are not on TV as much as everybody else on this card. So it sucks for the rest of the people in the. It sucked for the rest of the talent, but you kind of needed to sell something. And personally, why didn't they do this at Survivor Series? This is why I say they should have killed off the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view and just do this match at Survivor Series, and it could have been unpredictable. And then that could have been Undertaker's proper retirement. Personally, that would have been another great way to retire the Undertaker. But it's just they miss so many opportunities, and they be fucking with the cell stipulation sometimes. Next one, I even forgot this match even happened. I'm upset. But Undertaker and Shane McMahon inside Hell in a Cell, where if Shane McMahon wins, he gains control of the WWE, well, control of Raw. And if Undertaker loses, he is banned from competing at WrestleMania ever again. I think that was a cool stipulation. And everybody wanted Shane to win because they wanted Shane to take over the WWE. However, it does not make any sense for Shane to beat The Undertaker. Because all this match would have been is Undertaker getting his ass kicked by Shane McMahon. That's unacceptable. Undertaker should be destroying Shane McMahon. He's the monster in this match, and it was very boring and slow. And it only picked up when Shane jumped from that super high Hell in a Cell and fucking failed to land. Like, obviously there was a pillow, but it was still a very fucking deadly ass spot. So, and then it ends with Undertaker just tombstoning McMahon, and Undertaker wins yet again. It was yeah, this was just. I feel like they picked the wrong people for this match. It should have been Triple H and Shane, not Undertaker. What does the Undertaker have to do? Like, yes, he is the face or like of WrestleMania. He's one of the top players of WrestleMania, but they couldn't have had anything else for Undertaker. I mean, the original plan, believe it or not, was Braun Strowman and the Undertaker at this WrestleMania. If anyone remembered that. And obviously Sting was unable to compete. That would suck. That would have been great if we had Undertaker and Sting here inside the cell. That would have been way much better. So, but it felt like they just threw these guys just because they had nothing. Like, they were so desperate for ratings that they brought Shane McMahon back and put him against the Undertaker, which out loud sounds like a good match. Just the stipulation and everything else was bad. I don't know. That's just my personal take on it. Another match that I forgot happened. Roman Reigns and Rusev for the U.S. belt in 2016's Hell in a Cell. Another show with 3 Hell in a Cell matches, which was stupid again. Roman Reigns did not need to be in the Cell match. You could have done Roman and Rusev in a no DQ, and I would have been fine with that. But a Hell in a Cell, come on. Yeah. Roman Reigns. This is just a way to try to get people to like Roman Reigns, and people still booed him. This was bad. Um, the match was good. It was a well wrestled match, but it just wasn't the match that needed the sell stipulation. Owens and Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins for inside Hell in a Cell for the Universal Championship made a lot of sense because Chris Jericho kept interfering, so naturally they should be inside the cell. What did not make sense is that even though that happens, Chris Jericho finds a way in, and then it's a 2-on-1 handicap match. If it was it should have been Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins for 12 minutes, them going at it. Seth Rollins gets the upper hand, and then Chris Jericho interferes. Instead, it was a 2-on-1 handicap match for 20 minutes. So it was, yeah, it was just really bad misbooked, and very, it's very forgettable to be honest. Like, and the only thing that was memorable about Hell in a Cell 2016 was the first ever women's Hell in a Cell match, which was Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. Some people thought it was very botchy and shitty. I don't think it was that bad as people claim it to be. It is the weakest Hell in a Cell for the women, but it's not bad. Um, and I think Charlotte Flair going over, knowing what happens to Sasha Banks down the road, made sense. And the whole back and forth with Charlotte and Banks wasn't terrible. It just felt weird at the time because it was like these girls were everywhere, literally. So yeah, I just didn't think this was I don't think this worked. Um, this whole paper didn't work. I think Charlotte and Sasha needed the Hell in a Cell stipulation more than Reigns, Rusev, Owens, and Rollins. I mean, Owens and Rollins made a little bit sense. Sasha and Charlotte did make somewhat sense. However, it wasn't the finale to the match, so I get why people maybe didn't like it. It's a really weird concept. Like, Hell in a Cell is tricky because on one hand, it's the way to finish off a feud, and it's also a way to end someone's career. Like, that's how Hell in a Cell should work. And it was just weird because this was like only the middle of the story for Charlotte and Sasha. If this was the last match they ever had, then all for it. Usos versus the New Day, Hell in a Cell 2017. This was a fantastic match, and this one actually ended the feud for a while. Like, we didn't have another New Day versus Usos match until like February, but this was a great way to culminate the feud. And plus, you could have the story of if Kofi was in it, he would have won, and then they have Kofi Kingston team up with one of the New Day members and get the revenge that probably was deserved. And Usos and the New Day have fantastic chemistry, and this was no exception. This was one of the best Hell in a Cell matches out there, and I thought it was going to be super goofy with the whole confetti candlesticks and the drum set. Like, no, they did a great job booking this. Like, it showed all four characters well. Biggie and Woods are out of all the pairings of the New Day, this is the most underrated one, and it's personally my favorite one. Biggie and Woods have way much better chemistry than Biggie and Kofi wrestling, or Woods and Kofi. Actually, Woods and Kofi is really good, but yeah, my least favorite one would be the pairing of Kofi and Biggie. But Biggie and Xavier Woods, the two like muscle people of the team, like, yes, Kofi is a muscular man, but he's very skinny and scrawny compared to these two. So they picked the right two guys. Plus, Kofi was injured, and this was just well put together. I really enjoyed this one. So kudos on this one. Owens and Shane in a false count anywhere Hell in a Cell match. This was way too damn long. I will say this. And then this was just a way for Sami Zayn to turn heel on. And then they try to do that big spot of Shane jumping up on top from the top cell, but it didn't work because up to this point we've seen it countless times on replays from 32 and Mania 32, and yeah, just and yeah, I knew Owens was gonna win, and I remember around this time people wanted Shane to win, Owens to leave SmackDown and then move on to Raw or do something else with him. So yeah, it was one of those times where a victory led to nothing, and that's sad to say. Randy Orton versus Jeff Hardy from 2018 Hell in a Cell. I heard the only reason why they did this because Jeff Hardy's always wanted to be in a cell match, and Randy Orton is a well-established main event player. And I didn't think this match was that bad. I thought it was actually really good, and the story was there of Randy Orton wanting to take over all of the WWE Universe's favorites. I really enjoyed it. Very underrated Hell in a Cell match. One of the better ones we've had in a while. What we don't have that was great is this one, next one from the same pay per view, Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman with special guest referee Mick Foley, just because no one gave a shit about this match. And yeah, this is one of those times where yet again the focus is not the two wrestlers in this ring, but the focus is everything else. There's even a mini match in this match. It's weird. So they have Dolph Ziggler coming out. Seth Rollins climbs the top of the cell. They fight for a while on top of the cell, and then they both fall. It was random as hell. And then Brock Lesnar comes and interferes. Like, I don't even remember most of this match. I just remembered everything else but the match itself. It's weird. So terrible match. I would say again, not the wrestlers' problems, the booking problem. Next up, Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks inside Hell in a Cell 2019. This one I thought was great, better than Charlotte and Sasha, and this is the kind of match that Becky Lynch needed. But Sasha Banks did need to win because around this time Becky Lynch was overstaying her welcome as the top champion. But it did work in the long run, I guess, for Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch too. And yeah, this is a great match. Some of the best work both women have ever done, and I really enjoyed this one. And it showed that Becky Lynch is in fact the man. Seth Rollins versus The Fiend, Hell in a Cell 2019. One of the worst Hell in a Cell matches of all time. This is actually my least favorite Hell in a Cell match of all time because it was literally Seth Rollins beating the crap out of Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt no selling anything. They had like 50 curb stomps, and it ends because Seth Rollins beat the crap out of him, and it ended in a disqualification. I've never seen a Hell in a Cell match end in a disqualification. I've seen it end in no contest. Hell, the year prior. And this almost ruined the Hell in a Cell stipulation. If you were going to have this match, then the Fiend had to go over naturally. And hell, the match should have gone 5 minutes just based on how the Fiend was being booked. I have suggested that the match shouldn't have happened. It should have been Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles with AJ winning due to the interference from the Fiend. And then Seth and Fiend fight at Crown Jewel. AJ Styles is the Universal Champion going into SmackDown. Or he could have stayed on Raw and then Brock Lesnar is the top champion on SmackDown, whatever. But this was poorly done. It's just so terrible. If you didn't want the Fiend to be the Universal Champion, then don't do this match. What the fuck is your problem? Yeah, this was a horrible match. I hate this match. One of the worst things ever booked in recent times. So, yep, this is a god awful match. Don't even bother with this one. So terrible. Oh, and the red lights. Remember that? The Fiend having bright red lights all over the place. It was awful. Now, on to last year's 3 Hell in a Cell matches. Now, I'm going to be honest. I hate that we've gone to 3 Hell in a Cell matches a year. But all 3 of these next matches are amazing. Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso for the Universal Championship is considered to most people one of the best Hell in a Cell matches in recent times because of the story told and everything done. It made sense for it to be in Hell in a Cell. It made sense for it to be for the Universal Championship. And it made sense because Jey Uso did not want Jimmy to stop the match. He wanted this match to keep going. And Roman Reigns being the dominant heel that he is. And I believe this was an I Quit match. And the way it ended it with the whole putting the steps, the ring steps on top of Jey Uso and like ending it like that. It was just great. And for a second, it was a strap match with both men being tied together. Phenomenal work from both men. One of the greatest Hell in a Cell matches in a while. and it's a well-told story. Another one with a well-told story was Sasha Banks and Bayley, where Sasha Banks finally winning a Hell in a Cell match, finally getting the big title, and finally having a legit reign with the SmackDown Women's Championship. It is so great that we had two fantastically well-told stories, well-taught matches, and just well-told payoffs. And then on to the final one. Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton for the WWE Championship inside Hell in a Cell 2020. This one was good. It was great. In fact, the wrestling was top notch. The result was debatable. It does make sense for Randy Orton to win because it is Hell in a Cell. Drew McIntyre's never entered Hell in a Cell, so it makes sense why Randy Orton won. At the same time, I would have rather seen Drew McIntyre as a dominant champion and overcoming the odds, beating Randy Orton in a match that he's never entered and be like, holy shit, Drew McIntyre is the face of this business. That would have made more sense instead of taking the belt off of him just to get it back 2 weeks later on a random episode of Raw. It was kind of stupid, if you ask me. So this one would have been up there with one of the greats if Drew McIntyre simply won, but they didn't do that. So that was on them. Now, what we're getting this year, I don't know. We're getting Bobby and Drew inside the cell. We're getting Roman and Mysterio, maybe. I don't know what we're getting, but whatever we get, hopefully it's good or at least great. But I haven't been watching Raw or SmackDown, so who knows. But there we go. Every single Hell in a Cell match reviewed. All 45 Hell in a Cell matches reviewed. So what are you guys' thoughts on it? It's me, the ALE Double X Prince. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. And until then, I'm out.